It's time for the Las Vegas Sports Line. Brought to you by Caesars Entertainment, where every guest is treated like Caesar and every visit is unforgettable.
It is the Wednesday edition of the Las Vegas Sports Line. Happy to have you with us. Our Caesars Entertainment Wednesday, as one of the great companies in town, brings you our Wednesday edition. Jeff Davis, who's the director of trading for Caesars, will join us shortly. Todd Wishnev is in the house. America's favorite recreational bettor is here. I'm Dave Cokin. R.A. Platinum is at the production on the show, and one of the things he's produced is where we always start things off, and that's with who stood out on the prior night. And I'm telling you, there were some stars last night. Aaron Hicks saved the game for the Yankees with an unbelievable catch in extra innings to really flip the script in that game. The Twins would have won that game 15-14. Instead, Yankees get the 14-12 win. Big night for, who did I just blank on? Calhoun, Cole Calhoun, who has a big night with the bat for the Angels and throws out Bellinger to prevent the tie in the bottom of the ninth. But the guy who gets the honors as the star of the night, he's this guy.
It's the Las Vegas Sports Line's Star of the Night.
It's this ball deep to right, down the line. If it's there, it's gone. Home run, number 3 of the night for Robinson Cano.
Turn back the clock night, Todd, for Robinson Cano. 3 homers. He's only got 9 on the year, so it tells you that it's been kind of a power outage for the veteran.
Wow, Robinson Cano. I thought he was done. I thought he was all done. And he probably still is all done, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure the Mets would love to see him get hot. Jeff Davis will chime in on that subject and many others with us. Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Dave, Todd, what's going on?
Well, the golf won't be as much fun to watch this week. I just absolutely love the Open Championship or the British Open, whichever you prefer. And I thought the course in Northern Ireland was just incredible. The visuals were fantastic all week long. And even though there was no suspense on Sunday in the bad weather, really enjoyed the entire production. It was sensational.
Sure was. One of my favorite tournaments, if not my favorite tournament every year. You get up at 4 in the morning, the round's already halfway done. The quote-unquote morning wave is already finished. And, it takes you right through noon. And totally agree on the course as well. Challenging but fair. Birdies were available. Shane Lowry made a slew of them. You saw on Friday what can be done if the wind doesn't blow, and you saw on Sunday what happens when the wind does. So, yeah, even though who was going to win was pretty much well decided a few holes into Sunday, still great action. And, if you bet matchups like I do, you still have a sweat going to the end.
Yeah, and from a bookmaking standpoint, Rory misses the weekend. Tiger gets cut. And while Shane Lowry had some support, it wasn't a lot at a big price. So I'm assuming this was a pretty good tournament for the books.
Yeah, sure was. Our only real, not good result that could have happened was Fleetwood. We were pretty much a break even to him. We were really a short price in the market, comparatively speaking, to other places, just based on the amount of public action that rolled in on him. In the last 2 years, he's really gained a lot of popularity at the windows, and the way he's been playing, I don't expect that to change anytime soon.
No, if he'd had the short stick working on Sunday, it might have been a different result. He had a great chance to really cut the lead early and wasn't able to take advantage of it. This week, we've got most of the top names playing in the WGC. We've also got the Barracuda to look at, which was one of my favorite model cars of all time. I don't know much about the fish, but they've got a golf tournament. And one guy who won't be in it, and it's too bad from a betting standpoint because I think everybody would have been looking to go against Lowry in every matchup available this week, but he has taken the week off.
Yeah, myself included in that one. Clearly, if you pay attention to Twitter at all, he was not afraid to open a beer or two Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday. So, yeah, he's not going to be teeing off on Thursday. But, yeah, this tournament played at Firestone Country Club in Akron for a long time. Moves to the site of the FedEx St. Jude's Classic, which is played at TPC Southwind in Memphis. It's par 70 with very, very small greens. This should aid to the advantage of the guys who are really good ball strikers, looking at strokes gained tee to green this week. Another thing to look at, if you look at past course form here, you look at a guy like Billy Horschel. He's got 4 top tens in his last 5 starts at Southwind, but this is an event that's generally played the week before the U.S. Open and draws a very weak field. So while it's important to see if guys, take to the course, let's not forget that the field that Billy Horschel has been lining up in these events is not necessarily close to what he's going to be lining up this week. So looking through a little bit deeper into the stats, the last 4 winners have led the field in strokes gained tee to green. They've also been either first or second in the field in bogey avoidance, and they've been in the top 3 in the field in par 5 scoring. So those are the 3 things I'm looking at this week. A guy you mentioned to me, Dave, on Monday, Justin Thomas, in the top of 2 of those 3 categories on the PGA Tour. He definitely figures this week. You find him roughly 13 to 15 to 1 around town, depending on where you go. And he struggled for a while, had the wrist injury, struggled Memorial, and then in Canada, went across the pond, played really well at the Scottish, and frankly played really well last week, as not having a lot of links pedigree. And then you look at some course correlations here. The Sony Open and the Mayakoba Classic, 2 events that when players do well in that event, they seem to play well at Southwind. Thomas has won the Sony Open in Hawaii. So to me, if you look at the favorites, he's the guy most likely, in my opinion. A couple other guys I'm looking at, Patrick Cantlay, as good as a tee to green guy as there is. Questionable with the putter at times. The small green should help alleviate some of those issues. You can find him readily at 20 to 1. I'm invested there. And again, back to the course correlations, everyone should take a look at the leaderboard of those 2 tournaments, the last 4 or 5 years, the Sony Open and the Mayakoba. Harris English and Brian Gay have both won Mayakoba and the St. Jude Classic. Robert Allenby lost in a playoff in both events. And then Fabian Gomez and David Toms have won both the Sony and here. Another thing to look at, Matt Kuchar won both the Sony and the Mayakoba this year. Finished 5th in his debut at Southwind years and years ago. Another guy to look at, roughly in the 35 to 40 to 1 range.
And one guy we haven't mentioned, but you sent me some numbers on him after he misses a cut, and that would be one of the favorites, Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, his last 4 times he's missed the cut. The tournament after, he has 2 wins, a 2nd, and a 12th. Clearly motivated after missing the cut. And frankly, he only played a couple of bad holes. He made 8 on 1 on Thursday and made triple on 18. Stormed back and missed the cut by 1 on Friday. I almost want to put it as a one-off for a guy that probably had a ton of pressure on him playing in his homeland and, put it on himself too much. He's a co-favorite on our board, 9 to 1 with Dustin Johnson. Dustin Johnson has tremendous success here at Southwind. Another great iron player. Rory McIlroy, 9 to 1. Deserved favoritism, in my opinion.
Jeff Davis, Director of Trading for Caesars Entertainment, is on us with us right now. Todd Wishnev is here. I'm Dave Cokin. You can follow Jeff on Twitter at @the_junkyard. One of the best follows on that platform. There's another tournament this week, and I really haven't looked at this one at all, but you can give us some insight on the Barracuda.
Yeah, this tournament every year played opposite this WGC event. So generally it's guys it's journeymen looking to pick up a few FedEx Cup points to make sure they maintain their status, and then the younger guys that haven't gotten to the top 75, or in this case the top 50 in the overall world golf rankings. I've been to this event a couple times, and if any of you out there are golf fans and like to go to these events, this is a must-go. The scenery is beautiful. The course is well manicured and well maintained. And it's a fun event. They use the Stableford scoring system, which is the only tournament all year that uses it. So a birdie is worth 2 points, an eagle is worth 5 points, and a bogey is only worth -1. So a birdie and a bogey is better than 2 pars. So generally speaking, you're looking at guys that can make birdies in bunches. Last year, Andrew Putnam and Chad Campbell, who finished 1-2, were also first and second that week in birdies made. So I'm going right to the birdie average stat this week, and there's 3 guys that I've backed that are first, second, and third on the birdie average list of guys that are in this event this week. Sepp Straka, Dominic Bazzelli, Denny McCarthy. Dominic Bazzelli you can find at 100 to 1. Ooh. He finished 5th earlier this year in Palm Springs, which is an absolute birdie fest. This course is also a birdie fest, so it figures. This is a course that it's won by either somebody who's never won and is a rookie or in his second year, or a few years ago, Greg Chalmers in his late 40s, who had missed like 6 straight cuts and was 500 to 1, won this event. It's generally not one that's won by the favorites. So if you can have an opinion on a guy that likes to make birdies, there's prices to be had here.
All right, let's bring Todd into the chat, and we'll get to some baseball. And I guess the most interesting team right now is the Giants. They are losing today 4-1 right now. Cubs leading. That is it's going to the top of the 5th inning, so a long way to go in that one. But the fact the Giants keep winning has really made things interesting, even more interesting heading to the trade deadline, guys. It's a hard deadline this year. No more trades after July 31st. No non-waiver trades, or waiver trades, I should say. And the Giants have to figure out what they're going to do. Todd, do they sell, do they buy, or do they stand pat?
I say they go for it. I mean, I wouldn't sell, especially in today's baseball. To me, the Giants remind me of one of those 9-7 NFL teams that doesn't have a lot of talent, doesn't make mistakes, and just wins the games they're supposed to win because they have a good bullpen. They don't really have a lot of talent. They don't really have a lot of pitching. But here's the thing. What if they got to the playoffs in a one-game, Mad Bum pitches great in a one-game, wild card, and then it's anybody's game in a best of 7. Why not go for it?
Yeah, I guess my feelings are this, and I know all the talking heads, Jeff, they're saying, you still have to sell because they have to rebuild the organization. I get that, but they are in contention, and here's the other thing. If they trade Will Smith or Mad Bum, who says they're going to get it? Unless they're going to get a mother load, which includes a surefire top prospect, I'm not making a deal. I mean, these prospects, some do get there, some don't get there. It's kind of a crapshoot. Yeah,
San Francisco's in a tough spot. And I agree with Todd. They're really not that good. Their offense struggles, and they don't score a lot of runs on the regular. 24-10 in one-run games. This team reminds me a lot of the 2016 Texas Rangers. We're frankly not that good and just keep winning. They're in a position to go for it. They're only 2 games out of the wild card right now, albeit the Nationals and the Cardinals look like they might be tough to catch by the Giants. But even if they sell, and like you mentioned, Dave, not all prospects are hits. Many of them miss.
Yes.
This team is going to be way behind the Dodgers for a handful of years.
Right.
So this might be the only year they have to actually take a chance and go for it. And as Todd mentioned as well, their bullpen is, arguably the best in the league. Why not? What do they got to lose? This fan base is, they're pretty good. And I don't know. I just think selling doesn't really accomplish what selling generally accomplishes.
I got to tell you something. I'm looking at it and saying, hey, if the Rangers decide that they've got that they're not going to make it, and they put a couple of their hitters like Sin Chu on the market, go for it. Why not? If they make these deals, so what? They're going to be contenders in 2023.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's one thing if it's a team that doesn't draw, but the Giants sell out every night. It's Bruce Bochy's last year as the manager. Take a shot. What do you got to lose? You can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. Some other teams with decisions to make. I put the Pirates on the list, but they're not really a contender.
There's just no way. There's no bullpen at all except for the last guy. They bring in Crick when they need when they need to shut somebody down. I mean, there's no bullpen whatsoever, and they're hitting now that Josh Bell hasn't hit after the All-Star game has started to go down. So I don't really think the Pirates are a serious contender.
What about the Rockies, Jeff? I mean, they're not playing good baseball. Let's put it that way. Do they just go into sell mode at this point?
I would say so. I haven't been very high on this team all year. I mean, you look at it. The rotation is a complete mess after Marquez and Gray. And frankly, Marquez is awful at home. So, I mean, how is this team going to win a playoff series where they have to win 4 games with this pitching? And outside of Oberg and McGee, the bullpen is just as bad. To me, they're more than one piece away. and there's 6.5 out of the wild card right now.
And Jeff,
I think this is a definite sell for me.